Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McCLELLAND.
And welcome to week 2 of the Sales Leader of Influence show. And hey, I was super buoyed after my first week last week. So I just want to say thank you for the response that I got and some of the comments. So I was super chuffed. And it's really interesting because I had a couple of conversations this week with sales leaders who are looking for somebody to work with their team at a deeper level. And when I talk about a deeper level, they're looking at more than just the hard skills. So they're looking at the words becoming and how can their team and their leaders become a little bit more than who they are today. And so that really makes me feel super happy, because I think that we're at a point in time where we are looking for a little bit more than just the hard skills. It's absolutely, skills are important, but we need to augment them, especially with what's going out in the world today. And we just need to look at what's happened in the market, or what's happening out in the market. We know the administration is looking at wanting to reduce interest rates, and of course that's going to have an impact on corporations with interest rates and being able to increase their profitability. So there's going to be shifts there. We've got tariffs. We still don't know how that's impacting things out there. There's lots of different stories. But of course, AI and ChatGPT this week as well. And so lots of changes happening out there. And as a result, lots of triggers. And so this week, I mentioned that we were going to look at how you as leaders can deliberately disrupt your default. And when I talk about disrupting your default, that's one of my, I guess that's a philosophy, an underlying philosophy of mine. And it's also an underlying philosophy of the Sales Leadership Academy, and one of my keynotes as well. And that is the fact that my belief is that if you are not deliberately disrupting the way that you think, feel, and act, then something or someone else will do it to you or for you. And so when we look at what's happening around us, whether it's in the marketplace, whether it's in our lives, whether it's within our teams, there are going to be triggers. And we know that between the trigger and the response, there is this gap. And that gap is the default. And I like to think that this gap, I like to call it the gift of the gap. And that gift that we're given, that gap, is, I believe, where magic can happen. And we can play in that gap. And it depends how you want to frame the gap. And so where do we as human beings typically tend to default to? So we're triggered, and that trigger will result in a response. And so we operate on autopilot. And so I'm going to suggest to you right now that as a leader, what are some of the ways that you default? What are some of the ways that your autopilot kicks in when it comes to the way that you lead with your team? Whether it is you showing up same old, whether it is you playing a smaller game, whether it is your beliefs around money, whether it is you that you are somebody who has this tendency to want to control. We spoke last week on the performer trap, and that is the high-performing salespeople that come into a leadership role. And so many of you, your self-worth is tied to whether or not your salesperson wins the business, or your lack of self-worth is tied to whether or not your salesperson loses the business. So is there this control that you want to have? Do you have this need for approval? And so we have a default that we kind of autopilot to. And this is based on the way that we think. It's based on the way that we feel. And it, of course, is based on the way that we act or the way that we show up. And depending on that default will lead us to how we show up, and will depend on the version of us that shows up. So if you are showing up same old as a leader, what version of you is showing up? If you are showing up as this sales leader that is coming from a lack or scarcity mindset, what version of you is showing up? Because we come to the table and we come to the table with our thoughts. We know that. And our thoughts are based on how we process what's going on in the world around us. And our thoughts will then determine how we feel about things. And everything that happens in that gap will trigger some form of a chemical reaction in our body, whether it is anger, and it could be adrenaline, whether or not it is stress, and that's cortisol, whether or not it is love feelings, and we know that that's oxytocin, or whether it is serotonin or dopamine, or whatever those chemicals are going to determine how we show up and what version of us shows up. And however those thoughts and those feelings and those actions will create an energetic vibe about us. And we may think that we are showing up in our leadership role as that way because we've normalized it, but we could be showing up that way to other people. So we're on autopilot all the time. And so what I want you to think about today is how can you spot when you are on autopilot? And as a result of spotting when you are on autopilot, how can you actually disrupt that default pattern that you are showing up with and step into a newer version of you as a leader? And so I'm going to give you an example here, a really simple example that happened to me last week. And like it can't get any more simpler than this, right? We have been here in America for 3 years. And every Saturday in the football season, my husband will sit down and watch the replay. Saturday or Sunday, he will sit down and watch the Australian Football League replay. He follows Hawthorn, and so which is an Australian rules football team. And every year, or for 3 years, we have complained about not being able to find 4 and 20 Australian meat pies. It's a brand. And each time we go back to Australia, we're just hanging out for these meat pies. And each time we go back, we buy one. And it tastes less and less what we expect it to taste like. So we're in victim mode and have been for 3 years. So last week, I came downstairs in the middle of the day, and I don't know about you, but default mode, okay? This is autopilot mode now. I'm sure most of you will absolutely resonate with what I'm about to say. I open the freezer door, and the question is, what's for dinner? And I see some ground meat, ground mince, ground beef, whatever it is you call it, mince to me. And I pull it out of the freezer, I put it on the bench, and autopilot goes, one of two dishes for me, by the way, spaghetti bolognese or tacos. So it's usually spaghetti bolognese for me. So I put it on the bench and I spaghetti bolognese. And I walk away and I stop myself and I think, oh my God, I have just done something that I've done hundreds and hundreds of times before and not even thought about it. Complete autopilot. So I stopped myself and I gave myself some space and I turned around and I thought, we have been complaining about this for 3 years. I am going to push my edges and I am going to make meat pies. So I grabbed my Edmund's cookbook, which is an Australian New Zealand cookbook, had all the ingredients. So here's the thing. I had all the resources. I did not have to spend money on any new resources. I made these pies and they were absolutely to die for. Now, here's what happened as a result. I posted that photo of my husband and I eating these pies, and I coined a new phrase. Instead of you do you, it's you do new. Now, I've shared that, and I have had scores of people now starting to say, love the you do new. And so what I'm sharing here is that sometimes it's simply a matter of giving ourselves space. It's simply a matter of catching ourselves and not you do you, which is what we always do. Instead, you do new. Now, here's what I want to share with you. Autopilot. We have 60, 65,000, take your pick, thoughts going through our minds every single day. You ever thought and had a great idea and minutes later forgotten about it? We all have. So here's what happens is 97% of those thoughts are rote. They are unconscious. That we say them and we're going to do them and they just never happen because they're unconscious. And that is why, and we always use the what do you call it, the metaphor or whatever it is, that January 1, everyone says, going to go to the gym, going to lose weight, going to eat properly, but they never do. They never do because that is just unconscious. It's not in the 3% that is conscious, that is aware, that is emotionally charged. And so for us as leaders to be able to catch ourselves on autopilot and be able to step into the version of leader that we want to become, we cannot afford to just operate on autopilot. We actually have to grab hold of one part of our leadership and be able to make it conscious and to be able to say, okay, I am consciously going to bring my emotions into this and embed my emotions, and for this to become part of me at an absolute cellular, in my bones, walk and talk, this shift, this change. So here I am now. I'm a different person in the kitchen now. You should see me. I feel really good about this. And so I want you to start to choose something and to really, really feel into it, because that's the difference with people that will absolutely go vertical. And when I talk about going vertical a lot, going vertical is where you will shrink time to market. We are living in such a linear world where we'll go, yeah, we'll do that. Yep, and we'll do that. And when I do that, and when this happens. For you to shrink time to market, it is just go vertical. And this is one of the ways to do that. And so I want to share with you 3 principles to help you actually do that. And so I'm going to get Jason to share with you a link that you can download a worksheet. Each Wednesday, most Wednesdays, I am going to share a link that you can download a specific worksheet to take away and do that. So it is Sales Leader of Influence /SLI, standing for Sales Leader of Influence, workbook. So what I want to share with you here are the 3 principles to actually help you to deliberately disrupt your default, your autopilot as a sales leader. So number 1 is create the gap, okay? Create the space. And so you can't invite anything new in if there is a crowded space. It's like anything. It's like, doors are shut, sorry, train's packed, nobody else can fit in. That's exactly the same thing with you wanting something new to come in, but there's no space. So you have got to create the gap. And that's your responsibility. It's also your choice. And choice is a big word, because if you are really emotionally charged about wanting to step into a newer version of you, you will make the choice. And so that can be anything. So I'd like you to think for a moment, what is it that you have been doing in the same way and perhaps have not been getting the results that you want to get? So you hear it all the time, schedule it. You know, if something's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done. Or maybe it's outside of your calendar. Maybe it's just going for a walk and using that time. I don't know, but you'll find the time if you want to create space for the new to come in. Secondly, is to challenge the familiar. And when I say challenge the familiar, it's removing something before you add something else. So where is it that perhaps you have been leaning in on something that you have maybe been taking for granted, or maybe have just got so used to? Maybe it is a process. Maybe it is a salesperson in your team that you've leaned on. Maybe it is a client that you've depended on. And what if that was removed tomorrow? So when I say challenge the familiar, remove something before you add it. So just think for a moment, what is there that you could do? It could be something as simple as sales training. What is it there you could do? Maybe remove the product knowledge from sales training, because I can tell you now, with all my experience working with sales teams, there is too much emphasis on product training. And that is why your salespeople are going out to the market and they're just defaulting. They're defaulting to product talk. So they have got to deliberately disrupt their default. So maybe you could look at doing something there. And thirdly is to challenge new into results. And when we talk about challenging new, you've now invited the new in, and how can you now turn the new into outcomes? And that's because you've actually got to embed it and embody it, and you've just got to live it. And so that is the future you stepping in. And that's you creating the leader that you want to be. Because the thing is, you don't necessarily want the money or want the results. You are actually wanting the version of you that is achieving the results. That's what you really want. So how can you do that? So this is where I come from. It's like deliberately disrupting your default, because if you don't deliberately disrupt your default, something or someone else will do it to you or for it. And I keep saying that. So I'm not talking about abandoning anything. I'm talking about refreshing what you're doing so it doesn't go stale, basically. So I want you to consider what I've shared. I would love to hear some thoughts and hear some feedback from you if you're watching the replay, or just message me. I weave in a couple of different philosophies throughout the Sales Leader of Influence. Hard skills, definitely we've got hard skills. We definitely look at revenue and role clarity. We look at creating high-performing culture and psychological safety. And we look at coaching the human and the deal, because we've got to look at quantifying deals. We've got to look at qualifying deals. We've got to look at how you can increase your pipeline predictability and your forecasting accuracy as well. So all of that's included in it. However, disrupting the default deliberately is also part of your leadership identity. And so that's what I'm inviting you in. I'm looking at inviting 7 sales leaders in to be grandfathered into the first Sales Leader of Influence Mastermind. We start September. I'm going to ask Jason to put the link up on the screen. You can either DM me if you want to, or go to salesleaderofinfluence.com and have a look at it there. There is a link there to the Google Doc. If you want to apply, please feel free to do that. I would love to see you inside it. On Any other questions you may have, please shoot them through. We are entering a new era when it comes to business development and when it comes to sales leadership. I think a number of people are starting to feel that now. We still need to incorporate the hard skills. We still need to incorporate the commercial side of business. We need to also mix it more with the personal side and with the depth that comes with personal leadership as well. So I look forward to speaking with you again next week. And until then, message me, let me know if there's anything you'd like me to share, and have an amazing week. And in the meantime, lead with soul, lead with spirit, and definitely lead with spine. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.